You have heard it everywhere. Textbooks, museums, documentaries. The claim that humans and chimpanzees are 99% 99% genetically identical. It sounds like compelling evidence that humans evolved from an ape-like ancestor. But what if I told you that the 99% number isn't actually true? What if it is just an estimate derived before we had even sequenced the human and chimpanzee genomes? And what if the latest genetic data shows that humans and chimpanzees are less similar than we thought? Let's dive in. To understand why we have believed the 99% myth for so long, we have to go back to the 1970s. This was decades before we sequenced the human genome. Back then, scientists didn't have the technology to sequence DNA, so they used an indirect method. They used a technique called DNA hybridization. Basically, they took human and chimpanzee DNA, heated them up until they unzipped into single strands, and then joined the strands together to produce a hybrid DNA. After that, they measured how much heat it took to pull the hybrid DNA apart again. The more heat needed to separate them, the more similar they were assumed to be. From this experiment, scientists indirectly estimated that human and chimpanzee DNA were about 99% similar. The 99% similarity then made its way into popular culture and has stayed there ever since. Fast forward to the 2000s, scientists finally had the technology to sequence genomes. The first draft of the human genome was released in 2001. By 2003, the human genome was 92% sequenced. The chimpanzee genome was sequenced using the human genome as a reference and was also mostly sequenced by 2005. For the first time, researchers could compare the mostly complete human genome and chimpanzee genome side by side to calculate the genetic similarity. Yet many studies still kept the 99% figure. Why? It's because of how difference was defined. Scientists compared only single nucleotide variants. These occur when one letter of the DNA code is swapped in regions that can be neatly aligned. This method ignores several major types of genetic differences: insertions and deletions, structural variations like inversions, translocations, and copy number variants, as well as entire sections that are so different that they cannot be aligned at all. Yet these are precisely where humans differ the most from chimpanzees. Once you ignore them, the genomes look much more similar than they really are. It's like saying two books are identical, as long as you rip out all the pages that are different. Because of the questionable methodology, molecular biologist Roy Britton stepped in to correct the misconception. Britton was a well-respected scientist who had developed the DNA hybridization technique. This was what he said in his 2002 paper.
I have compared the actual DNA sequences. The conclusion is the old saw that we share 98.5% of our DNA sequence with chimpanzee is probably an error. For this sample, a better estimate would be 95%. The divergence due to base substitution is 1.4%, and there is an additional 3.4% difference due to the presence of indels.
Britton's paper was a crucial first step away from the 99% figure. While the 95% genetic similarity was still quite high, Britton himself admitted that his analysis did not include the parts of chimpanzee sequences that could not be aligned with the human genome. If those were included, the genetic similarity would be even lower. Fast forward to today. Technology has finally caught up. The human genome was fully sequenced in 2022 and ape genomes were fully sequenced in 2025. The researchers who sequenced the ape genomes found something surprising. They found that sequence comparisons revealed greater divergence than previously estimated. Yes, single nucleotide variants are indeed about 1.5%. But when the other categories of differences are included, there is an additional 13.3% gap divergence. This brings the total similarity down to around 85%. This 15% difference is a staggering 10 times larger than what is commonly portrayed. The 15% difference includes 185 human-specific gene families, including those linked to the expansion of the human frontal cortex. The 15% difference explains why humans are much smarter compared to chimpanzees. But in the 1970s, scientists still believed that humans and chimpanzees were almost genetically identical. They thought that chimpanzees could not understand language only because they were not taught. So they set out to teach chimpanzees language. A group of scientists, led by psychologist Herbert Terrace, raised a chimpanzee named Nim Chimpsky in a human environment and taught it American Sign Language. At first, the project looked promising. Nim learned more than 100 signs. It could even produce combinations like Nim eat banana. But after reviewing thousands of recordings, Terrace was forced to admit that Nim wasn't actually using language. It was mostly imitating gestures to receive rewards. It never learned grammar nor abstract concepts. It did not construct any original sentence. It also never asked the simple question that even toddlers ask, why? For years, the 99% myth told us we were just slightly more evolved apes. However, this number persists because it fits an evolutionary narrative, not because it fits the data. Now, the myth has been exposed by the latest science. The genetic difference is closer to 15%, which is a massive biological discontinuity that evolution has a hard time explaining. But the Bible has no problem explaining it. Humans and chimpanzees are 85% similar because all mammals need to eat, breathe, and reproduce. It makes sense for the Creator to simply use the same molecular toolkit for the same biological processes. Yet the Bible also states that humans are qualitatively different from animals. It is in the 15% difference that our defining human traits reside. Humans alone have the capacity for language, abstract reasoning, and morality. Humans alone tell stories, compose music, form governments, and ask questions like, why am I here? And is there a God? No other species does this, not even chimpanzees. These are features found only in humans, because we are made in the image of God. Maybe it is time we stop trying to find our identity in the zoo and start finding it among the stars. If this video got you thinking, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And as always, may reason be your North Star in this journey of faith.